If you're a history buff, then one of the most thrilling sections you'll often encounter are the tales about how historical figures kick the bucket. It's hard to explain, but there is something about reading death stories that tickles people's fancy even more than studying the adventures of historical heroes. And us, being a channel all about history, won't stay away from tradition and will fill you in on the most unbelievable and astonishing death in ancient Greece. When it comes to death, ancient Greece is pretty much the heavyweight champ of ridiculous cases that defy any sort of common sense. Most philosophers and commanders we know about today didn't exactly exit stage due to the natural causes. They were taken out by circumstances that would stretch the imagination of even the most creative writers. Take Heraclitus, for example. This ancient Greek philosopher brought some mind-blowing changes to the science of the time. His writings touched on everything from politics to democracy and metaphysics. Heraclitus influenced scientific progress for centuries to come, but his death, well, it's hardly something you'd expect from such a person. Heraclitus had a problem with dropsy. His body would accumulate a lot of water. A real issue when your kidneys aren't really working properly. The doctors told him that there was no cure for this mysterious illness, but Heraclitus wasn't about to sit around and take their word for it. He tried out various treatments, and boy, did one of them really do him in. His treatment of choice involved slathering himself with a thick layer of cow dung and lying in the sun, hoping his miraculous remedy would draw all the water out of his system. But things didn't exactly pan out. The dung dried up, trapping Heraclitus in its grip, and that's when the local wild dogs, who were just looking for their next meal and weren't the least bit put off by the smell of manure, found him. Another fascinating case happened with Chrysippus, another philosopher, by the way. He lived to the ripe old age of 73, which was pretty wild since back then hitting 35 could qualify you for the senior discount. So the story goes that Chrysippus saw a donkey eating figs and decided to crack a joke, suggesting that someone should serve the donkey some fine wine to wash down the figs. This apparently hilarious jest triggered an epic laughing fit in Chrysippus himself, and he likely died from a heart attack. Well, at least he died laughing. The playwright Aeschylus wasn't so lucky. He was done in by a falling object that had no business being airborne. Ever seen how crows crack nuts? They fly high and drop the nut on something hard like a rock or a paved road. Aeschylus met his end in a similar absurd fashion. Only it wasn't a crow. It was an eagle, and instead of a nut, it was a turtle. An eagle, having snagged a small turtle, mistook Aeschylus' bald head for a shiny rock and dropped the turtle right on him. The playwright didn't see the sneaky strike coming. Another interesting case happened with Empedocles, an ancient Greek philosopher. As Aristotle claimed, at the age of 60, Empedocles decided he could become a god. He planned to prove his immortality and invulnerability by jumping off a cliff into Mount Etna, the volcano in Sicily. Empedocles, of course, did not become a god and met his demise. However, his death became one of the reasons why he became famous. Also, an underwater volcano off the coast of Sicily was named in his honor. I'm sure you have heard of Diogenes, the philosopher who spent many years living in a barrel. His life is shrouded in various myths, but some versions of his death would fit right into our show today. According to one of the more intriguing stories, Diogenes died by holding his breath. That's right, he supposedly just decided to stop breathing voluntarily and passed away at the age of around 90. Talk about low-cost euthanasia. According to another version, Diogenes died from an illness after he ate a raw octopus, which honestly sounds right on brand for ancient Greek philosophers. The great military commander of ancient Greece, Pyrrhus, died in a battle, but in a pretty embarrassing way. He wasn't taken down by an enemy spear or the arrow of a skilled archer. Instead, during the heat of a battle, an elderly woman dropped a roof tile on him from one of the houses in the city of Argos. She was worried about her son, who was fighting against Pyrrhus and his army. The tile knocked the warrior off his horse, and one of the opponents promptly chopped off his head. The ancient Greek were quite the cheerful bunch, especially when it came to their ways of dying. Then again, similar stories of mind-blowing death are abundant in other empires and civilizations, so make sure you subscribe and don't miss our new videos.